Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin with chapter 14, verse 4. And what we're really going to focus on today is a very lengthy Kli Yakar. If you remember, we read the pasuk yesterday that when the person is no longer experiencing tsaras, they bring an offering involving two birds. So Kli Yakar and pasuk Dalet. V'lokach lamitaher shtei tziporim. L'mayla parshas tasriya kasafti shikar tsaras ba'al shalosh averos harmusim b'parsha. We discussed in last week's parsha the Kli Yakar's position that there are three primary sins and or character traits that are the cause of tsaras: heim lashon hara, speaking ill of others; gasus haruach, haughtiness; v'chemdas hamamon, and a great desire for money. V'al pised nuchalomar shatziporim mechaprim al shlashtan. If you look at it from this perspective, says the Kli Yakar, it could very well be that the sacrifice of the two birds is uniquely appropriate to bring atonement for these three things. Lashon hara, fisha osin, mase, patit. This we actually discussed last week, that when a person says too much lashon hara, they're chirping away. So birds chirp, and so the bringing of the birds is an atonement for lashon hara. The algasis ruach, ha'ola lamala, kitziporim afos. Haughtiness, a person keeps on floating upwards when they're haughty. They hold themselves high. That's like a bird that flies up. The alchemdas hamamon, and regarding desire for money, shenemar ba'al tiagal lashir, ki aso yaselo pnafayim, kinesher va'of ha-shamayim. Pasuk Mishlei talks about that we shouldn't work too hard to become wealthy, because when we become wealthy, the wealth takes on wings of its own. So that also alludes to birds. Osif gamani lekach tov levoyer mashatala mitzuda sichli b'shalosh achrazos shematzinu l'razala medaber mecheda lashon. This is a lengthier piece than he normally does, and it's not as much on the psukim. He says, but I want to talk about lashon hara a little bit. Hachraza rishonahi, the first lesson taught through the rabbinic literature is Mashamasik b'medrash harabasi, what's concluded in the medrash. Masa b'rochel echad, shaymachazer ba'yaros hasmuchos l'tzipori. There was a certain peddler who would go to cities near the town of Tzipori. V'yamachriz v'omer man boile mizban sam chaim. I'm sure many of you have heard of this medrash before. He would announce and say, who wants to buy the elixir of life? Odik olei alma. People gathered around him. Piresh Baal Matanos Kahuna, he habitu achrav milashon, vibitu acharei Moshe, Rabbi Yanai Havayasiv, upashit bitrakline, Amar le tasak lahacha zavindi. So Rabbi Yanai came out and he said, come, sell me the elixir of life. Amar le lesat sarich v'lo dekavasach. So the peddler said to Rabbi Yanai, nah, you don't need this. People like you don't need this. Atrachale, Rabbi Yanai kept on pressing him. Salak lagabe, hotzi lo sefer tehillim mekurach, herelo pasuk zeh. So finally, after Rabbi Yanai pressured him, the peddler took out a wrapped up book of Tehillim, and he read and he showed him the following pasuk: Mioisha chafetz chayim, who is the person who desires life, and then the pasuk ends. Metzora l'shon chomer, continues Metzora l'shon chomera, guard your tongue from evil. So the pasuk says that the key to life is to guard your tongue from evil. So he says that's the elixir for life. I don't have to even run it by the FDA. It's a pasuk from Tehillim. Live that way. Amar Rabbi Yanai af Shlomo machriz. Rabbi Yanai responded, yeah, Shlomo Melech said so also. Shomer piv l'shono, shomer mitzaros nafsho, pasuk Mishlei. So the peddler cited David HaMelech from Tehillim, and then Rabbi Yanai cites Shlomo Melech, his son, from Mishlei. That a person who guards his mouth and his lips and his tongue, he guards his soul from travails. Shomer mitzaras nafsho. So he says it. You could do a play on words, not that he saves his soul from tsaras, from travails, but tsaras, which is leprosy, which is what we're talking about. Rabbi Yanai, kol yomai hoyisi kore mikrazev lo yisi yodon heichon hu pashut. Rabbi Yanai said, I always was reading this pasuk, and it never became clear to me how straightforward this message is until this peddler came along and taught me this lesson. Lefichach, Moshe Mazer Yisrael, Zos Tiyeh Toras HaMetzora Hamotzi Ra. So the Medrash says, and therefore Moshe says, this is the law of the Metzora, and this is a play on words the Kliyak already taught us, Motzi Ra, the person who brings out bad things. That's Medrash number 1. Story of Rabbi Yana and the peddler. Medrash number 2. Or Gemara number 2. Achraza Ashniya Matzim Seches Avodah Zarah. Machris Rebbe Alexandri. Man boy chayi. Man boy chayi. Rebbe Alexandri announced, who wants life? Who wants life? Kinifu le kule alma. Everyone gathered around him. V'asu legabe, and they came to him. Amru lo hav lon chayi. They said, give us life. Amr lahu mi'oisha chafetz chayim. Metzora l'shon chameira. Who is the one who desires life? Cites them this pasuk. Who is the pasuk from Tehillim? Who is the one who desires life? Guard your tongue from bad. Shema yomar adam hov and atzart l'shon meira elech ve'agora b'shina tamud lomar sur meira v'asei tov ve'ein tov el Torah shenemar ki lekachton asatu lachem. So Rabbi Alexandri first quoted the pasuk like we said it before. He said, so the message is, if you want life, don't say Lashon Hara. Now you might think as long as you don't say Lashon Hara, you could just sleep. You could just relax. The key is not to say Lashon Hara. If I sleep all day and watch TV all day, I won't say Lashon Hara. So he says, no, keep on going in the pasuk. Sur me'ra v'asei tov. Turn away from bad and do good. It's not enough to turn away from bad. You have to also do good. And he says the definition of doing good is the study of Torah. Fine. Regarding the announcement of the peddler, there's reason to wonder. Why does the Medrash say he was a peddler? Do I really care if he was a peddler or a shopkeeper? I mean, is that the point? The point is somebody was selling something. Also, the Medrash says this person went around from town to town. Why? What's the significance of that? He says it's not. He's actually not even bothered by the language of going around. He says the better language of going around would be misavev, like sivivon is something that goes in a circle, around, whatever. So misavev, he went around. Mechazir implies a person turns around or something, goes back. What's that about? I don't know if anyone caught that. He said, the Medrash said, there were these towns near Tzipori. Who cares that the towns were near Tzipori? It doesn't matter. There are various nuances between the announcement of the peddler in the Medrash and the announcement of Rabbi Alexandri in the Gemara. Sam Chayim. His Kirla Mizban. So the peddler wanted to know who wants to buy the elixir of life. For Rabbi Alexandri, whereas Rabbi Alexandri, when he made the announcement, he didn't say who wants to buy life. He just said who wants life. Gamlo Hiskir Shum Sam. He didn't make any mention, Rabbi Alexandri didn't make any mention of an elixir. He just said who wants life. Alma, the language by the peddler was everyone just kind of stared at him. Rabbi Alexandri, was Rabbi Alexandri, everyone came and said, give us life. They wanted to take the product, so to say. What difference does it make where that Rabbi Yana was sitting in his hall? No, the language in the Medrash was the peddler showed a wrapped Tehillim to Rabbi Yanai. Do I really care if it was wrapped or not? The point is he showed him a Tehillim. The point is he read a pasuk to him. Why did Rabbi Yanai have to tap this with him? Why did Rabbi Yanai say, yeah, I've got a pasuk from Mishlei. Why do you have to do that? What did Rabbi Yana even mean? He said, no, I never appreciated this pasuk. It's a very straightforward pasuk. What didn't you appreciate about the pasuk? In Kedivrei Bal Akeda, shepiresh bezu a parsha shay kashalo anochach v'nistar ki metchila hischil l'shem nistar Mi Oisha Chafetz Chaim, V'Yachar Kach Diber Lahem Benochach Metzora Lashon Chomei Ra. Elavad Shekavanas HaPasuk She'adavar B'derech Achraza Shamachriz Machriz Stam B'Lashon Nistar Shevo HaKodim Liknos Azi Dabri Moim Benochach Mikawakam Kasha Hayolo Lahavin Kozeh Min Achrazas Rabbi Alexandri. So the Kli Yakar says, maybe what he means that the pasuk wasn't straightforward is actually there's a very interesting grammatic shift in the pasuk. Who is the one who wants life? It's not addressing himself to anyone. It's the third person. And then at the end of the pasuk is guard your tongue from bad. So we shifted. So he has a pshat, but he says it's hard to believe that was what Rabbi I didn't understand. He says, I think the answer to all these questions is what's the fix? What's a person supposed to do if they're guilty of telling Lashon Hara? If they're a Torah scholar, Yasok Batorah. If a person finds they're saying a lot of Lashon Hara, they're a Torah scholar, the solution is to study Torah. Shenemar, Mrapei Lashon Eitz Chayim. Say in Mishlei, the tree of life, the Torah, heals the tongue. What it means to heal the tongue is heal the tongue for saying Lashon Hara. Okay. Okay. And let's say the person's not a Torah scholar. Let's say the person's just a simple Jew. Yashpil atzmo. They should humble themselves. Shenemar. Salaf Bashever Baruch. Abba B'Chanina Amar Siper Ein Lo Takana Shekvar Karser David Baruch HaKodesh Shnemer Yachreis Hashem Kos Yosei Chalakos Elamai Takanta Shliyavot Lashon Hara Talmud Chacham Yasok Batorah. So it's very interesting. So the Gemara asks, if a person has said Lashon Hara, what's the fix? So we say, well, if he's a Torah scholar, he should study Torah. And if he's not a Torah scholar, he should work on humbling himself. But then Reb Abba Bar Chanina comes along and says, you know something? If he's told Lashon Hara, there is no fix. Just do tshuva. There's nothing. What the question is, what's a person to do to help themselves stop saying Lashon Hara in the first place? That they wouldn't be involved in Lashon Hara in the first place. So if he's a Torah scholar, let him study Torah. If he's not a Torah scholar, let him work on humbling himself. V'nira shatamush Reb Abahu shadinosein shloyia lo takana. It appears the logic of Reb Abba is, it's logical that if a person said Lashon Hara, there is no fix. V'shim kvar siper Lashon Hara v'tomum b'kedoshim v'hotzi shemra v'nispashit kol hanoseh b'chol ha'olam pshita she'ein takana lezeh she'alav siper Lashon Hara. You know what Reb Abba means? Once you've said something bad, you can't get it back. You write an email about someone, you send it all over, you put it on social media. All these people have a different opinion of the person. There's no way to fix it. It's gone. Even if the person who brings the offering, who says the Lashon Hara, brings all kinds of offerings, he can't get back what he said. How's he going to send out the message not to believe what he said? Okay. Therefore, it's only logical. The same way that there's not a solution to the person about whom the Lashon Hara was said, can't change his reputation from all these sources. So it only follows the person who said the Lashon Hara can't fix it either, can't better his situation. And that's what David HaMelech means. Okay, so we are obviously not finished. Thank you for bearing with me. It happens to be I don't have a lot of material to go with on this parsha to begin with, so we're going to spend a while in this Kli Yakar. But these are some very famous midrashim, and hopefully by the end of it, we'll have a deeper appreciation for it. Okay, any comments from anybody? Thanks very much. Have a wonderful day. Take care.